Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Arnold Thomas. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils multiple development projects worth 15,000 crore rupees in West Bengal, says central government working to provide momentum to West Bengal's economic growth, launches multiple development projects in the state of Bihar. US President Joe Biden hopes for Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal by the time of Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, which starts on the 10th of March, approves military airdrop of aid into Gaza. Hungary's parliament speaker signs off on Sweden's NATO accession, forwards the legislation to president's office for promulgation. While India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated development projects worth $1.80 million in Krishnanagar city. On the second day of his visit to the eastern state of West Bengal, these projects cater to sectors like power, rail and roads, and it will contribute to economic and industrial growth in the region. With an agenda to vitalize energy sector in the country, the Prime Minister inaugurated the Raghunathpur Thermal Power Station Phase 2. Addressing the event, Prime Minister hailed railways as a part of the glorious history of West Bengal. He stressed that the central government is working at all levels to strengthen the railway infrastructure in the state.
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के दृष्टिकोण से रेल पश्चिम बंगाल के गौरवशाली इतिहास का हिस्सा है, लेकिन इतिहास की जो बढ़त बंगाल को हासिल थी आजादी के बाद, उसे सही ढंग से आगे नहीं बढ़ाया गया। यही कारण है कि तमाम संभावनाओं के बावजूद बंगाल पीछे छूटता गया। पिछले 10 वर्षों में हमने उस खाई को पाटने के लिए यहां के रेल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर बहुत जोर दिया है। आज हमारी सरकार बंगाल के रेल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए पहले के मुकाबले 2 गुने से भी ज्यादा रुपए खर्च कर रही है।
Well, after inaugurating the development projects in West Bengal, India's Prime Minister also held a roadshow in Krishnanagar city of the state. A huge crowd gathered to greet the Prime Minister during the rally. Later, the Indian Prime Minister was also felicitated during a public meeting in Krishnanagar. Addressing the meeting, he highlighted the increasing corruption in the state. He said that the ruling party in the state turns central government schemes into scams.
ये चाहते हैं कि केंद्र की योजनाओं का लाभ किसे मिले, ये भी टीएमसी के तोलाबाज ही तय करेंगे। गरीब के घर की योजना को भी ये लोग तोलाबाजों के अधीन देना चाहते हैं। हर घर नल योजना में भी ये लोग तोलाबाजों का दखल चाहते हैं। मनरेगा में 25 लाख फर्जी मनरेगा जॉब कार्ड बनाए गए। जो पैदा नहीं हुआ था उसका कार्ड बना दिया। जो पैसा गांव में गरीब मजदूर को मिलना चाहिए था उसको टीएमसी के तोलाबाजों ने लूट लिया। ये टीएमसी सरकार हर स्कीम को स्कैम में बदल देती है। स्कीम को स्कैम में बदलने में टीएमसी की मास्टरी है।
Well, following his visit to West Bengal, India's Prime Minister also visited the Indian state of Bihar. Prime Minister inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of multiple development projects worth more than 21,400 crores in Aurangabad today. Addressing a public rally in Bihar's Aurangabad, Prime Minister said a few days ago, the pride of Bihar, Karpuri Thakur, was conferred with the Bharat Ratna by the Government of India. This is an honor for the entire state of Bihar. Prime Minister Modi was felicitated by Bihar's Chief Minister Nitish Kumar on reaching Aurangabad district. Addressing the gathering in Aurangabad, Prime Minister said that a new chapter of Bihar's development is being written today on the land of Aurangabad, which has given birth to many freedom fighters and great personalities such as Bihar Vibhuti Aurang Narayan. Prime Minister also outlined several development schemes run by his government and beneficiaries of Bihar.
बिहार के लगभग 9 करोड़ लाभार्थियों को पीएम गरीब कल्याण योजना का लाभ मिल रहा है। बिहार में उज्ज्वला योजना के तहत लगभग 1 करोड़ से अधिक महिलाओं को मुफ्त गैस कनेक्शन दिया गया है। बिहार के करीब 90 लाख किसानों को पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि का लाभ मिल रहा है। इन किसानों के बैंक खातों में 22,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक ट्रांसफर किए गए हैं। 5 वर्ष पहले तक बिहार के गांव में सिर्फ 2% घरों तक नल से जल पहुंच रहा था। आज यहां के 90% से ज्यादा घरों तक नल से जल पहुंच रहा है। बिहार में 80 लाख से ज्यादा आयुष्मान कार्ड धारक है, जिन्हें 5 लाख रुपए तक मुफ्त इलाज की गारंटी मिली है।
While addressing the public gathering in Aurangabad, Prime Minister said that his government is focused on increasing the capacity of every poor and deprived, and reiterated his guarantee for the people of Bihar.
बिहार का विकास ये मोदी की गारंटी है। बिहार में शांति और कानून व्यवस्था का राज ये मोदी की गारंटी है। बिहार में बहन बेटियों को अधिकार ये मोदी की गारंटी है। तीसरे टर्म में हमारी सरकार इन्हीं गारंटियों को पूरा करने और विकसित बिहार बनाने के लिए काम करने के लिए संकल्पबद्ध है।
After attending the launching and inauguration of multiple development projects in Bihar's Aurangabad, Prime Minister attended similar projects in Bihar's Begusarai and highlighted the present government's style of working and congratulated the people of Bihar for the development projects on Saturday. Morgan Stanley's Asia chief Jonathan Garner has praised India for leading Asian and emerging market equities in a new era. India, followed by Japan, are in a strong secular bull market on the back of strong earnings growth and nominal GDP growth. Comparing growth earnings between China and India, Garner said that in the most recent quarter, India's earnings grew 23%, whereas China was unable to show earnings or grow earnings in the current deflationary environment. Well, let's take a look at some other stories making news today. India's Corporation Minister Amit Shah launched the National Urban Cooperative Finance and Development Corporation Limited, the umbrella organization for the urban cooperative banks in New Delhi. This initiative aims to modernize and strengthen the urban cooperative banking sector, which will benefit both the banks and their customers. The Indian National Investigation Agency has detained a wanted suspect involved in the Nizamabad PFI case, where the banned group was planning anti-India activities. The suspect had a 2 lakh bounty on his head. Indian Coast Guard ships Samarth and Abhinav arrived at Colombo port. The ships departed from Galle for Colombo yesterday after completing several multifarious engagements with Sri Lankan Coast Guard, including joint training in boarding operations, pollution response, firefighting, along with damage control. India's Border Roads Organization, that's BRO, commenced snow clearance in Sonmarg, recognizing its strategic significance as a crucial road link. This initiative comes in response to heavy snowfall in the area, ensuring the restoration of essential transportation routes. On to updates from the Israel-Hamas conflict. US President Joe Biden on Friday said he hoped there would be a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas by the time of Ramadan, which starts on the 10th of March.
So you think there may never be a ceasefire negotiation?
I'm still hoping for it. You know, it's not over till it's over. There has to be an agreement on the timing, and they're still far apart.
Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry has said that Cairo was hopeful that talks initiated by Qatar could agree on a ceasefire in Gaza before the start of Ramadan. Gaza truce talks have been taking place in Paris since last week to halt the fighting in the Israeli and Hamas conflict zones and to secure the release of hostages.
We are hopeful that the areas of divergence between the two sides can be bridged and that we can reach at least a temporary cessation of hostilities to lead to a permanent. I believe that it is only with the conviction that this temporary cessation of hostilities will turn into a permanent cessation that we can proceed.
US President Joe Biden met Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni at the White House on Friday. Biden thanked Meloni for Italy's unwavering support for Ukraine and urged the US Congress to pass a bipartisan bill that will allow more funding for the country. Meloni called the humanitarian crisis in the Middle East her #1 priority and said the US and Italy should work together on concrete steps towards a two-state perspective, which is a long-term sustainable solution. This year, Italy holds the presidency of the G7, which also groups the United States, Japan, Germany, Great Britain, France, and will host the summit in June.
The crisis in the Middle East is of the utmost concern. We need to coordinate our actions in order to avoid an escalation, and in this regard, we do fully support the US mediation efforts. The humanitarian crisis is our number one priority. Italy is concentrating its contribution on this. Meanwhile, we are cooperating with all regional actors that must be part of any future outcome. We should work together on concrete steps to guarantee the two-state perspective, which is the only long-term sustainable solution.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden announced plans to carry out a first military airdrop of food and supplies into Gaza. Biden said the airdrop would take place in the coming days, but offered no further specifics.
And we need to do more, and the United States will do more. In the coming days, we're going to join with our friends in Jordan and others in providing airdrops of of additional food and supplies into Ukraine and seek to continue to open up other avenues into Ukraine, including the possibility of a Marine corridor to deliver large amounts of humanitarian assistance. In addition to expanding deliveries by land, as I said, we're going to insist that Israel facilitate more trucks and more routes to get more and more people the
Meanwhile, for the second time in a week, several planes airdropped humanitarian aid in the northern Gaza Strip. The flow of aid entering Gaza from Egypt has declined dramatically in the past few weeks, but Israel has said it is not blocking aid and blames the UN and the Palestinian side for any delays. Earlier, Jordan, which the UN and the Western donors have turned into a regional hub for humanitarian supplies to Gaza, for the first time carried out 4 flights along with the French army to drop food to thousands of displaced people sheltering on the beach. As Israel also combats Hezbollah from Lebanon front, at least 3 Hezbollah fighters were neutralized by the Israeli troops in South Lebanon on Saturday. Earlier, Israeli Defense Minister indicated that Israel had planned to increase attacks on Hezbollah in the event of a Gaza ceasefire, but was open to a diplomatic deal to withdraw Hezbollah fighters from the border. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak raises alarm over rise in extremism and crime in Great Britain. Over the weekend, Republicans in several states will choose their party's presidential nominee. Spring Festival being welcomed with a Rose Festival in the national capital.
We are taking a close look at the US presidential election 2024. This year, there are approximately 64 elections scheduled around the world, but probably the most consequential of them all is going to be in the United States.
Hedging against, at the official level, America not being the friendly, open partner that it's always been is extremely important, but it is a very complex world that we live in. One has to both hedge and also invest at the same time. It's extremely complex, but unfortunately there is no alternative.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Anil Thomas. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has raised an alarm over a rise in extremism and crime. It's endangering the nation's multicultural democracy. In a late Friday statement, Sunak urged unity and shared values to counter polarizing tendencies, stressing the necessity for communities to live harmoniously with a collective commitment to the country.
We are a country where we love our neighbours and we are building Britain together. But I fear that our great achievement in building the world's most successful multi-ethnic, multi-faith democracy is being deliberately undermined. There are forces here at home trying to tear us apart. Since October the 7th, there have been those trying to take advantage of the very human angst that we all feel about the terrible suffering that war brings to the innocent, to women and children.
The United States military said that it conducted a self-defense strike against the Iranian-backed Houthis' surface-to-air missile in Yemen on Friday. According to the U.S. Central Command, the missile was prepared to be launched from Houthis' controlled areas of Yemen towards the Red Sea and presented an imminent threat to the U.S. aircraft in the Red Sea. The strikes come amid heightened tensions in the region, where Houthis fighters have carried out attacks on commercial and military shipping since November. The Houthis initially said they would target Israel-linked ships, but later expanded their targets to include vessels linked to United Kingdom and the US. Over the weekend, Republicans in several states will get their chance to choose who they want to be their party's presidential nominee. Donald Trump is a clear front-runner, having won every primary and caucus contest so far. This weekend's voting will be a last chance for challenger Nikki Haley to build momentum heading into Super Tuesday. U.S. correspondent William Denslow has more.
Friday through Sunday, registered Republicans in the District of Columbia, where the White House is located, will have their say on who they want to reside there for the next 4 years. The Republican Party is also holding caucuses in the US states of Michigan, Missouri and Idaho over the weekend. Michigan has already held its presidential primary, which saw Donald Trump handily beat Nikki Haley by over 40 percentage points. 16 delegates were up for grabs in that contest, and Saturday's caucus will determine how the state's remaining 39 delegates will be allocated. For several months, the candidates will crisscross the nation ahead of the Republican National Convention in July, where nearly 2,500 delegates will gather to confirm the party's presidential nominee. That person will then likely square off against Joe Biden in the presidential election on November 5th. Despite finishing behind Donald Trump in all state contests so far, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley has vowed to stay in the race, at least until Super Tuesday. On March 5th, 16 states will have their say on who they want to see on the ballot come November. In New York, William Denslow, reporting for DD India.
Well, 2 buildings were damaged and turned into debris following an unspecified drone attack in Russia's St. Petersburg on Saturday. The local residents were evacuated from the building following a loud explosion that blew out windows. According to the officials, the explosion took place in the city's northeastern district of Krasnoyarsk. However, no casualties were reported. The investigation into the explosion is underway. Russian media outlets report that the incident could have been caused by a downed Ukraine drone, which was heading towards a nearby fuel depot. Hungarian parliament has finally approved Sweden's long-delayed bid to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO. Speaker Sandor Leslak signed off on the ratification and forwarded the legislation to the President's office for promulgation. With this move, Sweden is set to become NATO's 32nd member, completing a process that began with the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022 and saw Finland join last year. The addition of the 2 Nordic countries will bolster the alliance's capabilities. Earlier, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government had faced pressure from NATO allies to fall in line and seal Sweden's accession to the alliance. Hungary's president now has up to 5 days to promulgate the legislation. As Japan assumed the UN Security Council presidency for the month of March, Japanese US envoy Yamazaki Kazuyuki asserted that their ultimate goal is to lead to a world without nuclear weapons. He was speaking at a press conference in New York on Friday. Yamazaki announced 2 featured events in March. The first, titled Maintenance of International Peace and Security, Nuclear Disarmament and Non-Proliferation, is scheduled for March 18th. The second event, an open debate on promoting conflict prevention, empowering all actors, including women and youth, will be held on March 13th.
As the only country which suffered the nuclear attack in the history, Japan is very keen to this issue, and our thought on this month's meeting is very comprehensive. So we would like to our ultimate goal. Our goal is that we will lead to the world without nuclear weapons.
Well, at this point of time, let's take a pause in all international stories and come back to India, where we are heading straight to the BJP headquarters, where there is a press conference scheduled. Let's catch that live.
विचार करते हुए हर लोकसभा क्षेत्र के लिए कुछ प्रदेशों के पहले फेज में नाम केंद्र की ओर आए। आदरणीय राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी के साथ प्रदेश की चुनाव समिति ने और चर्चा उसमें की और अंतिम 29 फरवरी को केंद्रीय चुनाव समिति जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री और माननीय अध्यक्ष जी की उपस्थिति में हुई, उसमें 16 राज्य और 2 केंद्र शासित प्रदेश में से 195 सीट्स का निर्णय हुआ। उसमें माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी वाराणसी से चुनाव लड़ेंगे। 34 केंद्रीय मंत्री एवं राज्य मंत्री, इनके नाम इस सूची में 195 में है। एक लोकसभा अध्यक्ष जी का नाम भी है और 2 पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री। ऐसे 195 में उम्मीदवारों के नाम हैं। उसमें 28 हमारी मातृशक्ति है। 50 से कम उम्र वाले 47 युवा उम्मीदवार, 47 फीमेल 28, मातृशक्ति 28, यूथ 47, अनुसूचित जाति शेड्यूल कास्ट 27, शेड्यूल ट्राइब अनुसूचित जनजाति 18, पिछड़ा वर्ग ओबीसी 57। ऐसे सभी वर्गों को, सभी समाज को, सभी जातियों को प्रतिनिधित्व इस पहले लिस्ट में दिया है। इसमें जो प्रदेश के बारे में विचार हुआ उसकी सूची आज है। बाकी प्रदेशों की चर्चा दोबारा जब होगी तो उसके बाद वो देंगे, जिसमें उत्तर प्रदेश से 51 सीटों की आज घोषणा करेंगे। पश्चिम बंगाल 20 सीट्स की आज घोषणा करेंगे। मध्य प्रदेश 24 सीट्स की आज घोषणा करेंगे। गुजरात 15 सीटों की अभी हम घोषणा करेंगे। राजस्थान 15 सीटों की आज घोषणा करेंगे। केरल 12 सीटों की आज घोषणा करेंगे। तेलंगाना 9 सीट्स 9 की घोषणा करेंगे। असम 14 में से 11।
Well, there were live visuals there from the BJP headquarters in the national capital. BJP General Secretary Vinod Tawade there briefing the media, telling them about the first list of candidates for the upcoming 2024 Lok Sabha elections. 195 seats on which candidates will be announced. This includes Prime Minister's seat, his sitting seat from Varanasi that the Prime Minister is going to contest. There are going to be 34 union ministers and other ministers who will be in this election fray, along with 28 women and 47 youth who are going to be part of that 195 seats that are going to be announced in a short while from now. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of DD India. You let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, Instagram. We're going to be right back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Anil Thomas. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.